Good morning. I am going to release a series of videos focused on the individual practices to ensure that everybody from the first responder community is able to, at least on some level, take advantage of what we're, the information that we're pushing out. Even if we can't get into your individual agency and coach you up on this stuff, you can follow along in the videos and with the content that we're pushing out, and ideally get some level of help into the central nervous system dysfunction, TBI aspects that we're pushing out for education. With journaling, that's the first thing I'm going to touch on today. I was never somebody who journaled prior to starting in the late fall of 2021. At that time, I had substantial cognitive impairment that was still hanging around from the TBI and central nervous system dysfunction that I had experienced. And I was having difficulty speaking. I would have to go into the bathroom to look in the bathtub to see if it was wet, to know if I had showered or not. So it was really beneficial to me to start this journaling practice so that I could start tracking my progress or lack thereof throughout this experience. I found the best method for me was to wake up in the morning, start my morning routine with mobility work and breathing, go get my coffee, come back up, dive into journaling. And I start every journal entry the same way. I detail how well I slept the night before. I either slept well or didn't sleep well. If I didn't, I try to detail what interfered with my sleep and just be aware of any patterns that were developing. I also list whether or not I dreamt the night before and try to list in detail if I did have dreams, what they meant to me, and looking back throughout time, the way that a dream kind of what resounded about the dream on the day after might change with time. So it was really beneficial to track that over the days and weeks and months that would follow. I then would just go into detail about anything of significance within the 24 hours prior to me ending my last journal entry. And I was diligent about this process. What I found was I started to develop this relationship with my own internal dialogue, because I had a lot of days where I felt horrible, but I couldn't articulate why I felt horrible. And as I continued to journal and just stayed at it, it's a practice because it's not something that we're expected to be good at when we first started. So as I developed this relationship with journaling, I also developed this relationship with my own internal dialogue, and it started becoming a lot easier for me to recognize what was wrong internally and fix it. So that naturally led me to this place of recognizing the importance of a gratitude practice, because often when I was in the bad places, I was leaning more towards negativity. My thoughts were more negative, my feelings were more negative. And when I started focusing on more of a gratitude practice and recognizing even in the worst situations, I still had something to be thankful for, still breathing. So I could look forward to getting better if I was at a really low moment. I think about it from the standpoint, as far as gratitude goes, I think about it from a survival situation. If I'm stuck on an island, if I'm marooned on some island someplace, and I'm with another person, and they are flooding me with negativity about we're never going to get off this island, we're going to starve to death, we're going to die of dehydration, and that's not going to benefit me in any way. If I'm with the person that says, what do we have to do to get off this godforsaken island? Let's do it. That's going to benefit me. That's going to get me off the island, or we're going to die trying. And I would much rather die trying than I would just surrendering to this concept of woe is me. So with time and repetition, my internal dialogue started getting more positive. And that led me naturally to this place of recognizing a sense of faith. And what I noticed was, as I continued to journal, as I continued to focus on gratitude over negativity, I had this gap where faith should have been. And I'm not talking about an individual denominational following. I'm talking about my own relationship with myself and recognizing that my own self-worth, which so many of us from both the military and first responder communities, whether we are just getting to the end of a career through retirement or whether we are being forced out through kind of these invisible ailments of PTSD and TBI, and they leave us with this big void as far as a sense of self and a sense of our own identity and our own self-worth. That's where faith started coming into me. I recognized that I could only attach to and love a higher power as much as I could love and attach to myself. And if I was drinking and doing drugs and not taking care of myself, that doesn't really reflect a good level of self-worth for me. So it became more that I could work on. And that got me really excited throughout the process of, oh, there's more I can fix. When we recognize that there is no mountaintop to getting better. There is no mountaintop to this healing process. I don't expect to wake up one day and go, oh, I've done enough, I'm good. This will continue for the rest of my life. I get better at the practices the more I practice them, but I still need to be doing breath work. I still need to be doing my journaling. I may not do journaling every single day at this point, but when I start feeling like I have gotten some distance, or maybe I'm not as connected to that internal dialogue and I'm having trouble sorting out my emotions and getting to a calm, fluid place within myself, I go back to journaling, because the second I have to write down my emotions and feelings and that internal state in written word versus just carrying on the conversation in my head, it becomes real. It becomes something that I have to stick to. And this brings up a topic that I hear a lot when I bring up journaling, which is I don't want my wife to find my journal, or I don't want my husband to find my journal. I don't want my kids to find my journal. I understand that fear. I also think that there is a lot to be said about this. One is you need to have boundaries even with the people that you love. And if you don't have boundaries set to where they won't respect your privacy in something like journaling, you may need to look at the overall construct of those relationships first. But second, you don't have to detail everything in a way that somebody else reading it is going to understand what you're saying. I will often write phrases and sentences in a way that only I understand what I'm talking about. But even when I look back 2 years later, I still remember what I was talking about in that moment. So the relevance only has to translate to me. There's a lot of tricks that you can do from that. But what I'd encourage you to do is either find a safe place to keep it if you're worried about that. Get a lockbox, keep it with your weapons. Put it someplace that the kids and the wife or the husband aren't going to look, but also ask them to respect your privacy in this. This is part of your healing process. It has nothing to do with them. And if you are writing a bunch of stuff about how your wife or husband or kids or anybody else in the external world are affecting your internal state, you need to look more at your internal state, because nobody else should be affecting that other than you. That's yours to maintain. The impetus is on you to keep that in a good place. And this is all part of the process that we will learn about over time. But I can't say enough about the importance of journaling, especially when we're in the bad states. The same with gratitude, the same with faith. I will not stand up and preach to anybody about going to church or reading one holy book or another. Find that relationship for yourself. Religion is a lot like diet to me. I don't feel like there's one that's appropriate for everybody throughout the world. I think everybody needs to develop that relationship on their own and figure out what it means to them on an individual basis. So that can come through journaling. You are ultimately navigating a course that you don't know what the end zone is with journaling. You're just detailing it so that when you look back over time, the picture becomes easier to see. Give it a shot. Again, the easiest process for me is to do it first thing in the morning. I'm detailing the 24 hours that took place prior to that, and I'm focusing a lot on any interruptions in my day, any down times, any good times, celebrations, stuff that I might want to remember 10 or 20 years down the road. But it's the act of taking that internal dialogue and putting it down in written word that feels like the real exercise of the process to me. I encourage you to give it a shot. Let us know if you have any problems, issues, questions, whatever it might be. Reach out. Y'all be safe. Have a good day.